There are two different ways to feed your child through a G button. Continuous feeds use a pump to give feeds over a long amount of time. Bolus feeds run at a faster rate over a short amount of time. You can give bolus feeds through a pump or by gravity with a syringe. Your child's doctor may order continuous or bolus feeds or a combination of the two. This video will show you how to give continuous and bolus feeds through a G button. We will also teach you how to give medicines through a G button. There are several steps to giving a continuous or bolus feed to your child using a pump. To start, pour the ordered amount of feed into the bag. Close the feeding bag and hang it above the pump. Connect the feeding bag tubing to the G button extension tubing. The extension tubing has an adapter which connects to your child's G button. Different G buttons use different adapters. Once you connect all the tubing, put the feeding bag tube into the pump. Open all clamps on the tubing. Turn on the pump and prime all tubing. Priming means that you fill the tubing with feeds to push out all the air in the tubing. It is very important to prime all tubing with feeds before you attach them to your child's G button. This will keep air from going into your child's stomach. Once all the tubing is primed with feeds, you may connect the extension tubing to your child's G button. To connect the extension tubing, use one hand to keep the G button from moving. With your other hand, line up the black lines on the button and extension set. Then push the extension tubing all the way in. Turn it to lock into place. Program the pump with the ordered rate and amount of feed. Finally, double check to make sure that all clamps are open. You are now ready to start the feed. When the feed is done, use the side port of the extension tubing to flush the tubing. After flushing, clamp the tubing and disconnect from the G button. Finally, close the G button. Your home equipment may look slightly different from what you see in this video. To give a bolus feed without a pump, remove the plunger from a syringe. Attach the syringe to the bolus extension tubing. Clamp the tubing. Pour the feed into the syringe. Prime the tubing with the feed by opening the clamp. Close the clamp as soon as the feed fills the tubing. Connect the tubing to your child's G button. Open the clamp and hold the syringe 10 to 12 inches above your child's stomach. Raising the syringe will make the feed go faster. Lowering the syringe will slow down the feed. Once the feed is finished, flush the tube with water. Clamp the tubing and disconnect. Finally, close the G button. Sometimes too much air gets into the stomach. Your child may be unable to burp to get the air out. This can cause the stomach to become too full, resulting in discomfort or nausea. You can burp the G button to remove the air. This is also called venting or decompressing. We do not recommend decompressing the stomach for 1 hour after feeding. To burp the stomach, remove the plunger from a syringe. Attach the syringe to the bolus tubing. Connect the tubing to your child's G button. Make sure the clamp is open and hold the syringe 6 inches above the stomach. This will let the air flow out. You may hear a sound of air rushing out. When you see stomach contents or formula flow into the syringe, clamp the tubing and disconnect. Finally, close the G button. You may also use your child's G button to give medicines through a syringe attached to the extension tubing. The continuous extension tubing has 2 ports. The port that lines up with the main tubing is used for feeds. The port that comes off the side is used for medicines and flushes. This allows you to give medicines in the middle of a feed. When you give a medicine, be sure to prime the extension tubing with either water or feeds before you connect it to your child's G button. This will keep air from getting into your child's stomach. Do not forget to clamp the tubing after you prime it. If you do not clamp, feeds or water may spill out. Once you connect the extension tubing to the G button, attach the medicine to the side port. The bolus feeding tube does not have 2 ports. You would use the main port to give medicines. Unclamp the tubing and push in the medicine using a syringe. If you need to give more than 1 medicine, make sure to clamp the tubing before you take off the first medicine and attach the next medicine. If you forget to clamp the tubing before taking off the medicine syringe, the medicine and stomach contents may leak out of the open port. Repeat these steps until you give all medicines. Finally, flush the tubing. After that, you will unclamp the tubing and restart your feeding pump. If you're not feeding at that time, you will clamp and disconnect the tubing. Finally, close the G button. It is very important to flush your child's G button with water after feeds or giving medicines. Flushing makes sure your child gets the full amount of the feed or medicine and prevents the G button from clogging. To flush, pull up 5 to 10 milliliters of tap or bottled water in a syringe unless directed otherwise by your provider. Clamp the extension tubing. Connect the syringe. Unclamp the tubing and push in the water using the syringe. Clamp the tubing and remove the syringe. Close the port. Make sure to always unhook the extension set as soon as the feed is complete. This helps keep the extension set clean. Use hot tap water to clean out tubing and then lay it out to dry. If you are having trouble cleaning the extension set, you may use a syringe to draw up hot water and flush out the tubing.